Hey guys, welcome to today's video. I'm taking my dappled willows today. We have filmed this in a couple of different seasons, first in October and now in early December. Very cold day today, and I'm going to show you how to propagate these dappled willows today with a very high level of success, and show you today how to turn these nasty looking, dead looking sticks into what really amounts to easy money. And by the end of this video, I'm going to show you how to get some of these cuttings to stick for yourself. So stay with us today. I look forward to showing you this. It's going to be a lot of fun, an easy and productive way to get some money flowing in your brand new nursery started. So you may be able to see that our car is parked right here behind these in our carport, and we grow these on the side of our carport, and we kind of like some of these long branches kind of reaching into our carport just for a little bit of the year. It's kind of nice and fun to have them in there. These things blow like crazy in the wind, and we really like them big and wavy like they are. But depending on where you plant these, depending on your setup, your location, your landscape, since these things get so big, either you're going to have to cut them back about twice a year, or you really need to plant them somewhere else because they do get so big. But this is just a good example of what they're going to look like after a full season of growth. So it won't be long and we'll be ready to prune these back. Well, it'll be a few months, but anyway, they're about done for the year. Now this is a bed of dappled willows that have grown through this growing season. Again, it's December, and I stuck these out here in probably late winter last year, around January or February. It doesn't even matter when I stuck them, other than it was during the winter. And they've grown to this height now. I've pruned them. They've grown to this height twice, and now I think this is the third time since I pruned them. And despite the fact that these still have a lot of green in them, they are completely dormant. They've had multiple hard freezes on them. I'm going to dig these up today. I'm going to prune them down, then I'm going to dig them up and get them ready to be potted. And I'm going to show you exactly how to propagate these yourself, and it could not be any easier. I'm just going to be kind of going fast, kind of helter-skelter here. And I got most of those trimmed down, and there's a few weeds, there's a few leaves, and there's a little bit of green left on here from the plants. But for the most part, what you have here is what you're going to now be ready to dig. So I'm going to dig these, or at least start digging these, at least to show you what they look like. We'll go from there. We'll start digging this one up, and I love these shovels, spade, whatever you call it. It's got the serrated edge on it. It really helps you cut through roots when you're digging your plants up. But let's see if we can pull one of these out and kind of see what we have here. All right, there you go. There's your one dappled willow. So pretty cool, huh? No reason to knock all the soil off of it. Doesn't matter when you're just going to take this and pot it up anyway. So I'll just leave it exactly like that, and it'll be ready to go pot. Now, I showed you this back on an earlier video about how to build your beds so that your ground is easy to dig. These are pretty easy to dig here because my ground is soft. But depending on your soil, your location, and your local growing conditions, plants are not always easy to dig from the ground. That's beautiful. Look at that. Look how well branched that will be when it sprouts, or when it flushes out in the spring. But part of the key to growing plants in the ground, it's easy to grow plants in the ground for nursery use, but it's not easy to get the plants out of the ground. So I amend my soil pretty heavily before I ever plant anything in the ground, because you always want to be able to remove from the ground whatever you put in the ground. So that's always worth knowing. You need to dig in a lot of compost, dig in soil conditioner, anything to break up any kind of clay, or if you've got sandy soil, I guess you've got a better place to grow than I do. But anything you can do to make your ground softer will make these plants easier to dig up. And you may have a different kind of shovel, you may have a different method, you may have any number of different things than I have. I'm just using what I have, and I'm just showing you how I do this. So maybe it'll help you to spark your imagination and show you some of the tools that I use and get you moving towards growing some of your own plants to sell. Man, look at the roots on that. Pretty huge. Now I've dug all of these dappled willows out of the ground, and they're fairly uniform, some bigger roots than the others, but there are 29 of them here, and I found one dead one, or one that didn't take. So out of 30 that I stuck in the ground, 29 of them turned into plants that will be ready to sell next spring. Now the next thing I want to show you is exactly how to propagate these with very, very, very high success rate. And now I'm taking just some of my potting soil and putting it back on top of where I dug these from, and I'll just kind of gently spread that out on there just to smooth the ground out and just make it a nice place to stick the next cuttings, which we will go and prepare those now. In taking your cuttings for dappled willows, it's hard to adequately express how easy this is, but you're going to just take your I call these canes or limbs, whatever you want to call them, and just cut one off, and I'm going to cut it down in there pretty low. Come get kind of a close-up of this so you can see what I'm doing. I'm going to go cut it off down here pretty far, let's say down there. And this is maybe 6 or 7 feet long, and some of them are much longer than that. I mean, altogether there's probably 1,000 cuttings or more to be had. And all I'm going to do is clip off some of these little twigs here. I don't need any of that. And all I'm going to do is take this cutting right here is where I just removed it from the parent plant. And I'm just going to cut this into sticks about 6 inches long. You don't have to measure them. They can be shorter than that, or they can be longer than that. And I'm going to cut as many here as I can get from this particular cane. And these would probably work if they were half this length. I know they'll work if they're 10 times this length, because I've tried that before. But I'm just going to cut these. And let's see how many I'm even getting here. I'm just using this stack in my hand as kind of a reference to cut the next one against. It may be an inch longer or shorter. It doesn't make any difference at all. And the diameter of these cuttings doesn't really matter either. I mean, you don't want to use the ones that are getting as skinny as hair, but just about any of these are going to root for you just fine. So you can see there's a pretty good range here from one of the first ones to one of the last ones, and either one of those are just fine. Thicker than that's fine, and you may get thinner, but this stick here has gotten down pretty small, and I'm just going to discard that, and we'll take these, and I'll show you how to turn these into dappled willow plants. All right, and here's those cuttings I had in my hand that I just made, and you need to make sure that you have the right end facing up. So as I was cutting these, this would be the direction that these were growing up, and this would be the end growing down towards the trunk of the willow. You need to stick them in the correct direction, and all you do is just stick these in the ground. So I'm just pushing that down into the ground a little bit, and I'm not going to do anything else to that at all. Just put a few inches of space between them. Just think about how much space you have to work with. Think about how big these are going to grow during the course of a year, and you just stick them. Mine are 2 or 3 inches apart. You may do them closer than that. You may do them farther than that, depending on your space. Again, the length of these cuttings doesn't really matter. You just need enough that's got a piece of it down in the ground, and you need a piece of it sticking up that's dry. So these can sit like this all winter long, and they will be just fine, and they will need no care at all. I'm not even going to water these in today because we're expecting rain in a couple of days, and with it in the cold season like this, things don't dry up fast at all. So they're just going to sit here as they are, and I will fill in the rest of this bed with more cuttings, and these will be next year's plants. The ones that I dug a little while ago, this time last year, those plants that I dug, they were out there growing as canes. So in one season, you go from a stick to a $6 ready-to-sell plant, and these require nothing at all beyond just this. Pruning them a little bit in the summer, making them so they're nice and bushy and branchy by pruning them, and beyond that, they're ready to sell in one growing season. Okay, and just last year, I stuck this one in the ground, just like I just showed you, and you can see the top of the cutting. It was just this stick right here. No roots, no nothing, just this stick. And during the growing season this year, you can see where it branched, and it branched again and again and again. And I came along and pruned it at different times. I pruned it here, pruned it here, pruned it here, and every time you prune them, they're going to branch and get fuller and more bushy. So in one growing season, this to a nice sized plant, I will pot these up just in the days ahead, maybe next month or whatever. I will pot these up and they will be ready to sell come about April or so. So we wanted to make these cuttings available to you, particularly if you are just trying to start out a nursery. This is a super easy plant to get started with, and we want to offer these to you for 50 cents each with a minimum of 20. So the information for how to order these will be the very last thing on a still screen. You can just pause your screen. I'll put it right after this part, but make sure that dappled willows, tricolored willows is another name, make sure that they're hardy in your area, and we cannot ship these to anywhere on the West Coast. So if you're one of the western states, sorry, you're out of luck. Take it up with your representatives, I guess. But anyway, I've shown you how to make these, how to grow these. They're super easy, and if you'd like to get some of them, send me an email at the address here on this next screen. Other than that, love y'all. Hope you're having a great day, and I'll see you on the next one.